He was a simple employee, but life took a sharp turn when he came to know of devious plan threatening lives of his American brothers. He didn't hide, but confront the brutality of terrorists on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Don't you fucking move! Don't you fucking move!
In Paris, we're introduced to James Rhee, a sharp and capable personal assistant to U.S. Ambassador Bennington. James is tasked with driving Bennington to the embassy, all while reviewing the ambassador's packed schedule, which includes a meeting with the French foreign minister. As they chat, James manages to distract Bennington with a game of chess. Right when things are getting intense, James' phone rings with a cryptic message full of code words. We soon realize that James isn't just an assistant. He's a low-level CIA agent. After checkmating Bennington, he heads off to handle his secret mission. James goes to an underground parking garage, where he looks at his pistol, craving some action. Following his orders, he swaps the license plates on a nearby BMW and moves his car far enough to stay out of sight. A few minutes later, 3 men climb into the car and drive off. James watches them go and then heads back to his apartment, where his CIA handler calls to praise him for completing the task. However, James wants more. He believes he's ready for a bigger role as a field agent. But his handler thinks it's too soon and assigns him a simpler task: plant a chip in the foreign minister's office during his meeting with Ambassador Bennington. James doesn't have the chip, but his handler reveals it's been in his jacket pocket all along. As he inspects it, there's a knock on the door. It's Caroline, his French girlfriend, who greets him with a kiss. She asks about his work, but as always, he can't share any details. Caroline changes into a dress she made from their old curtains, and when James compliments her, she reveals what she's done. James is amused but decides to skip dinner and jump straight to dessert, enjoying their time together. The next day, James follows Bennington to the meeting, which makes his job easier. He tries attaching the chip under the table with chewing gum, but it fails miserably. His real chance comes when the meeting ends and everyone leaves the room. James successfully staples the chip under the table and heads back to his apartment. When James arrives at his building, he's shocked to find a trail of blood leading to his door. Cautiously, he enters, grabbing a broomstick for defense, but it's Caroline on the balcony, explaining the blood was just sauce from their dinner. She hands him a gift just as the CIA handler calls. He's impressed with James' work and tells him to head to the airport immediately. His partner, Charlie Wax, is stuck at customs and needs a driver. James is hesitant, pointing out that he's not special ops certified, but the handler assures him that this job will be easy and that completing it will earn him a promotion. James is excited and opens the gift from Caroline, which turns out to be a ring that belonged to her father. She's tired of waiting for him to propose, so she places it on his finger, making him promise never to take it off before kissing him goodbye. At the airport, James meets Charlie, who is throwing a tantrum over not being allowed to bring his energy drinks into the country. Charlie rips into the airport agents, reminding them that America saved there, but's in 2 world wars. James steps in to calm Charlie down, and they head out, with Charlie mocking the agents as they leave. James is puzzled about why Charlie is so upset over the sodas, but Charlie reveals that the cans actually contain pieces to his favorite gun. Everything Charlie did at the airport was just a distraction to keep the agents from checking the cans. At a Chinese restaurant, Charlie orders his favorite meal, but James reveals that it's actually an American creation by a Jewish guy in San Francisco. Charlie is skeptical and confronts a waiter who admits he doesn't speak Chinese. In a flash, Charlie pulls out his gun and threatens the waiter, which sparks a shootout as other workers in the restaurant pull guns. While James takes cover, Charlie effortlessly takes out the gangsters, demanding to know where the drugs are hidden. The waiter refuses to talk, so Charlie shoots at the ceiling, causing powder to rain down. He tells James to collect a sample in a vase. After leaving the restaurant, they follow the waiter to a building, and Charlie explains that their mission is to take down the men responsible for overdosing a girl named Charlotte. James initially thinks it's personal, but Charlie reveals that Charlotte is actually the niece of the Secretary of Defense, who wants the entire triad operation shut down. They follow the waiter into an alley and see him slip into a building. As they prepare, gangsters nearby challenge them. James wants to avoid confrontation, but Charlie encourages him to trust his instincts, reminding him of what he just did at the restaurant. One gangster pulls a knife on Charlie, but Charlie quickly takes care of the threat without breaking a sweat. They climb a fire escape and break into the building, where Charlie instructs James to stay one floor below him. As James climbs the stairs, he finds more bodies and meets up with Charlie in a room where young kids are performing a traditional dance for a group of people. They hold a gun to one of the men, demanding he give them the name of the drug dealer. The man writes down a name without a word. As they leave, a group of armed men bursts into the room. James and Charlie barely manage to escape, hiding in a room filled with mannequins before engaging in a shootout. They hide again, and Charlie picks off a few more men before they both fight back. When Charlie runs out of bullets, James passes him a pistol just in time to take out the last gangster. Later, James contacts his handler, grateful for the action, but concerned that Charlie's methods are unconventional, especially with the vase of drugs he's carrying. The handler, however, doesn't care about methods. He just wants the job done. Caroline calls, wondering where James is, but the call drops before he can respond. Later, when he tries calling her back, his phone dies. Meanwhile, Charlie takes a hit of the drugs, explaining it's to help him relax. He offers some to James, who initially refuses but eventually gives in when Charlie threatens to send him back to the office. James worries it's the same drug that killed the defense secretary's niece, but Charlie drops a bombshell. There is no niece. Confused and high, James demands to know what's going on, and Charlie explains that their mission is about tracing money trails to catch Pakistani terrorists. They stop at an alley where a few guys are guarding access to a building. Charlie tells James to act like a junkie and explain they want some girls. The man lets them in, and when they reach the elevator, James is shocked to see Caroline inside the building. He's worried about what she might think of him, but Charlie wonders why Caroline is even there in the first place. Charlie bursts into a room, demanding the client and his girls leave. James takes the man's charger at gunpoint, impressing Charlie. Charlie then hands James binoculars to monitor a small bank across the street. When James spots two Pakistani men entering the bank, things escalate fast. Shouts erupt at the door, and when James answers it, he's attacked by the men who own the building. Charlie watches with a detached calm, letting James get a few hits in before shooting both attackers dead. James and Charlie are tailing two Pakistani men through the streets of Paris when they see them hop into a van. Charlie quickly tracks the van using his watch and discovers it's heading to a sketchy area of town. They approach the building guarded by a couple of gangsters. James and Charlie play it cool, pretending to be customers looking for drugs, offering cash in exchange. The thug lets them in and says they'll have to wait for his boss. Things go south when young gangsters suddenly hold them at gunpoint, demanding they kneel and hand over their stuff, including the ring James is wearing, a gift from his girlfriend, Caroline. The leader, Rashid, steps in, takes the ring, and offers a gram of drugs in return. But Charlie isn't satisfied. He demands a kilo instead. Rashid gets suspicious and pulls a gun, but Charlie's quick to pull his own, pointing it right at him. James jumps in, explaining that any amount over a kilo would land them in jail for over 15 years. Realizing they got to think fast, James smashes a vase of drugs, sending the gangsters scattering. He then beats Rashid to get his ring back and forces him to lead them to the apartment above, where the Pakistanis are hiding. They burst into an old man's apartment, promising not to hurt him. The old man doesn't seem fazed at all, even offering them tea. Charlie sets up an extendable camera to peek into the room below. He spots the men hurriedly packing and plans to climb down to the window. He hands James an earpiece and tells him to cover the ground floor, ready to shoot anyone trying to escape. Charlie crashes through the window, quickly taking out 3 of the men, but he gets pinned by gunfire. James is ready to burst in through the door, but Charlie realizes it's rigged with explosives. He pushes through the men inside, taking out a few of them. The gangsters have a way out through the floor, so James rushes to cut them off. He runs into a few of the men, trying to escape, and tries to arrest one, but the guy grabs James' gun and takes his own life. Charlie praises James for his quick thinking. Soon, they see a car pull up to pick up the escaping gangsters. Charlie knows they've got time before the men reach the car, so he prepares an explosive vest sitting on a nearby table. As the men approach the car, Charlie detonates the vest, blowing the car and the terrorists to pieces. Charlie begins gathering evidence around the apartment before the cops arrive. Meanwhile, James spots blood on his clothes in the mirror and cleans up, still shaken. He's desperate to put this all behind him when he notices photos of himself plastered on the terrorist wall. He realizes just how deep he's involved. They hear the cops closing in on the 10th floor. James wants to stop them, but Charlie restrains him, saying they don't have time. James insists on saving the officers, but just then, the door explodes, killing the cops. The two use the chaos to escape the building and steal a cop car. James is nervous since their fingerprints and personal items are all over the car, but Charlie doesn't have time to stop and worry. Charlie quickly reverses the car and rams it into the one they came in, causing an explosion. They reach a meeting point where two CIA agents are waiting. Charlie praises James for his work and hands over the evidence they gathered. James thinks it's the next part of their mission, but Charlie surprises him by pulling out two sandwiches from the brown paper bag. They're waiting on confirmation from the CIA about whether their mission is finished. James wonders if they'll ever catch the bad guys, especially since he couldn't even pull the trigger when he caught one of them. He wonders if maybe he isn't cut out for this work. Charlie reassures him, saying the agency needs honest guys like him. James then gets a call from Caroline, inviting him to dinner. He decides to bring Charlie along too. At dinner, Caroline's friend Nicole is also there. As they get settled in, Charlie gets a call and turns up the music to cover the conversation. Then, Charlie starts talking about their work, casually mentioning how they took down an entire terrorist cell and implying there are more out there. Everyone seems to be having a good time until Nicole gets a call asking for a rose. That's when Charlie suddenly pulls out his gun and shoots Nicole dead, revealing that rose was a code word. He also reveals that Nicole's number was in all the cell phones they seized. To make things worse, the entire house is bugged. James is stunned and thinks Charlie has lost it. Charlie then shows him one of the bugs he suspected might be planted. Caroline breaks down in tears and denies everything. But James is still doubtful, especially since he did a background check on her when they first met. Charlie tells James to check the ring she gave him, suspecting there's a tracker inside. Caroline begs James to trust her, but eventually, he hands the ring over to Charlie. Sure enough, there's a tracker inside. James demands an explanation from Caroline, but she suddenly shoots him in the arm before escaping through the window. Charlie chases her across the rooftops, but Caroline manages to stay one step ahead, jumping down to the street below where a car picks her up. Charlie manages to get the license plate. Later, James tends to his wounds, feeling like he made a huge mistake. He admits that he doesn't know anything about Caroline. Charlie tells him that love makes people blind. James then gets a call from Caroline, who apologizes for shooting him. She explains that 6 years ago, she met a man who introduced her to a new faith, and everything she did was to serve that faith. James struggles to understand how this could justify lying to him and shooting him, but Caroline hangs up before she can explain further. She lingers for a while before heading to the car, where a man in all white is waiting for her. Charlie listens to the recorded call, trying to pick up any sound that might help locate her. Just then, James gets a call from his boss, Bennington, who's furious that James wasn't at the airport to greet the American delegation for the summit. Charlie figures out that the terrorists are planning to target the U.S. delegation. James thinks they should take a moment to think it through, but Charlie heads out with a CIA agent, determined to stop the terrorists. Meanwhile, James feels something's off. If the terrorists were targeting the delegation, why would they have wired his apartment? He still doesn't have answers. Charlie and the agent get closer to the delegation when they spot the same car that picked up Caroline earlier. The driver notices them and speeds off, leading to a high-speed chase on the highway. Charlie struggles to get close, asking for a weapon, and the agent hands him a grenade launcher. Back at the apartment, James continues searching and stumbles upon a drawing of a burqa. Charlie is trying to line up a shot with the launcher when he gets a call from James, explaining that Caroline isn't in the car, but is planning to attend the summit as a delegate. Charlie swears he can see her inside, but James warns it could be a diversion. Charlie speeds up, and they see a mannequin in the front seat. James decides to head to the summit. Charlie plans to take out the man in the car, but first, he tries to warn the American convoy to change course. They refuse, and Charlie can't get a good shot. He has the agent drive to an overhead bridge. Meanwhile, the man in the car prepares explosives, racing toward the convoy. Charlie gets to the bridge in time, lines up the shot, and blows the car up just as the convoy passes. At the summit, James arrives and gets another call from Charlie, warning him to be careful, as Caroline may be wearing a bomb vest. James still hopes he can talk her out of whatever she's planning, but Charlie insists James should be prepared to kill her if necessary. James' diplomatic pass doesn't work, and he learns it's already been used by Bennington's assistant. The guards try to arrest him, but Bennington allows him inside. As the delegates enter the building, James spots someone wearing a burqa and follows them into a room filled with people dressed the same. Running out of time, James disarms a nearby agent and causes a panic, but he identifies Caroline by her shoes and confronts her. Caroline decides to make a stand, revealing her explosive vest. James pleads with her to surrender, promising he can help her. She refuses, telling him she's at peace. James tries to talk her down, expressing his love for her. For a moment, it seems like she might listen, but then she raises her hand, and James is forced to shoot her in the head. In the aftermath, the American diplomat is annoyed about the delay and demands to know who's responsible. Charlie says James will probably get a promotion for his actions and jokes about him tagging along on future missions. James just wants to go back to the apartment, but Charlie hands him an envelope containing pictures of him and Caroline, knowing James would want something to remember her by. James thanks him, and the two head out together. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below.